Well, we are starting a recording where I'm to speaking about this what we have here title as Moscow is throwing Trump under the bus. Yes, we title this talk Moscow is throwing Trump under the bus. What does it mean? What we are going to tell in this recording, but maybe you suspect already about what we are to speak here. We are to speak what happens now in the world. We all hear what is going in USA, in Ukraine, in Europe. All people are all world is speaking about it, what goes on there in USA. Let us talk about the events in US and the world due to the commotion caused by Trump, which is called the peace plan. Peace plan, the ultimatum put forward to Zelensky by November 28 to sign this plan. We know this all is around in the world. All are speaking about this. The requirement pushed by Trump to sign his so-called peace plan. And this caused a stormy reaction around in the world for and against this pro and contra. Everything that can be imagined is happening in the public space, in the political communication space of state leaders, and so on and so on. We are going to discuss a little about this, and let's take as a basically known facts fact that from Moscow to the US is sent a report, a plan, a demand for Trump, and this demand for Trump is written in Russian, in Russia language, and this is sent from Moscow to US and directly in hands of Trump, and Trump takes this message and forwards as his own peace plan. Well, 2 points are known around this, what goes on. The text was written in Russia, apparently in Moscow. We don't know in Moscow or other places, but it is written in Russia, and the same text in an English translation was presented to Trump as his peace plan. He gives us his own peace plan, but this peace plan is being taken from Russia. That is translation into English, and maybe possibly this translation is done by this person, Kirill Dmitriev. But actually we don't know, but this is not crucial fact. It may be so, it may be not so, but this text from Russia, now translated in hands of Trump, is by Trump pushed as his peace plan. Well, and now we are discussing how such situation have arisen, that a document created by Russia in the hands of the US president from Russia is presented as US peace plan between Russia and Ukraine. Let's first interpret this situation as follows. The US president has been recruited as a Russia spy, and Russia exposes this spy of its own with such a blatant act. Yes, this is one suggestion we may put in this situation. US president has been recruited as a Russia spy, and Russia has exposed this spy in such a blatant act, sending to their spy a text in Russia in order to force the spy to announce this as his peace proposal. And now we may ask, do we know that Trump is a Russian spy? No, we don't know. It is only one supposition about that it could be so, but we actually don't know whether this is a correct conclusion or not. We don't know this. But possibly there is something other. We may ask, is it possible that Russia wants to develop this situation as one where Trump has turned out to be a Russian spy? Might be it's so that it is a provocation from side of Russia, an attempt at such provocation. Is it possible? Yes, we are to suggest, we are to assume that it is possible. We see this fact. We see this fact that Trump is standing with Russia text in hands and proposing it is a peace plan from side of the US between Ukraine and Russia. Yeah, but now we are look to from another point of view. Let us look at the external circumstances, how the main figures in this situation, Trump and Putin, have come to this situation. What could be reason for these both persons, Trump and Putin, to occur in this situation? And now these two facts two facts we should observe. What concerns Putin and what concerns Trump. Firstly, Putin loses in his autumn military campaign, does not achieve the military victories he needs, and the conditions for financing the war are deteriorating, becoming critical. It is difficult to continue the war. There is looming danger that the war could lead to the collapse of Russia. This is a situation in which Putin finds himself in today's situation. But what about Trump? Trump is calm in critical situation, but in his own way. Trump loses the Republican race in the election campaign. The release of the Epstein files is already inevitable. MAGA is beginning to split. The search for victories for Trump's peacekeeping campaign has run out of steam. We are to find another one peace in brackets in the world. Both situations, we should admit, are critical, both for Trump and both for Putin. For those two persons, this situation today is very critical. But the initiative about what we are to speak, it comes from Moscow, because a more critical situation is for Russia. And so initiative to something to do in this situation comes from Moscow, comes as a desperate set to throw Trump under the bus. Yes, to throw Trump under the bus, or in other words, Moscow is burning Trump as an asset, namely, choose, they are saying to Trump, choose Mr. Trump, either be the ultimate representative of our interests and play it out consistently to the end, or become a spy for you in eyes of your country, before your country, in front of everyone in the world, in front of U.S. services, departments, and what else in U.S. The document is sent and it is prepared in plain Russia, translated into English by this Dmitriev, given to Trump. Well, they say, do whatever you want, choose. The Kremlin will wait. What you are going to do in this situation, we demand. We give you this paper in your hands. You are to read and choose. You are to become our implementator of our wishes, representative of interests of Russia, being president and US, or we make from you a Russian spy. We actually don't know is Trump Russia spy, but we see his great dependence from Kremlin. This dependence for Kremlin we see already in 10 months from the date when Trump was elected as president. Yeah, but now we go on with our discussion. What will Trump do? What we are to see, Trump will try to balance. Yes, one way which we might expect from Trump, he may try to do what he has already done 10 months. 10 months. Will try to balance between these choices. He would follow the requirements of Russia, Moscow, but he may try to play with as if defending interests of USA as president of US. It's as similar as he has done already 10 months, starting from this date, 20th January 25. So, just 10 months we have from this day. And Trump all time has been trying to balance in two ways between Moscow wishes and between trying to show that he is defending US interests and democratic world interests. But all the time he has balancing and so cheating the world around him. But what Moscow wants to receive, Moscow wants what Trump should do. Trump must begin with a desperate attempt, with the first blow, to roll out the situation as Moscow demands. And this should be constant attacks on Zelensky, Europe, everyone who will oppose it. By the 28th November, Zelensky must sign Moscow's peace plan, Moscow's de facto Moscow's peace plan. But this step, which Trump actually tried to do, as Moscow is requiring, probably in expecting from him, he is trying to do, but is causing a storm in the world, the reaction against this. The whole world is protesting against this attempt, so-called peace plan for Ukraine and Moscow, and we may ask, did Moscow wanted this outcome of events? Has Moscow obtained some what they wanted to receive, that they needed? Yeah, but actually Moscow needed a sleepy, indecisive Europe, and so other world leaders, they should be the same way sleepy and indecisive, and trying to play with Trump as a peace person that brings peace all around the world, peacemaker, Trump as a peacemaker. But what is happening? Europe is awakening. Europe does not look like so sleepy as before. Very slowly, Europe is awakening, very slowly. And every day from the day 22nd November to 28th November, it may be each day may bring some decisive step in actions of Europe. We may expect that Europe is awakening. Yeah. And so we would like to see what Moscow would receive in with these actions, in forcing Trump in this way, in this blatant way, to dispose Trump as if they're a spy. Or at least controlled person. Moscow needed, further we may say, Moscow needed Ukraine, which is immersed in its own problems, starting with the corruption scandal. But what is happening? Isn't a new consolidation of Ukraine taking place in the face of the fantastic dangers that Moscow is initiating? They wanted Ukraine to scare simply, but with such a real outcome, what they see now in Ukraine happening, well. Yeah, and now we may ask, let's see how the situation will continue until November 28, because today is only 22nd date of November, but events are unfolding like in conditions of snow avalanche formation. Will Moscow survive in this situation? We may further ask. In fact, Russia has had no choice when it started these adventures. So it doesn't much care about how they want something change in their situation around, because they are too near to their end. Maybe it will succeed. Moscow in this, what goes on in Russia, how the nebos pronesiot in Russia. Russians maybe think maybe will it all pass. The Russian logic that has so often been their guiding principle, that maybe so it nebos pronesiot. But what will happen to Trump, to the USA? Will Trump roll out the situation as a peacemaker? If we look at what Europe is doing, what Zelensky is doing, it seemingly so that everyone is painting Trump as a peacemaker. Yes, as a peacemaker, but actually this is so. They all are seeing them as peacemakers. They are talking quite different things. Europe and Europe's leaders, no countries openly bow to Trump in front of the US as a peacemaker, but behind the scenes they talk quite another things. Yeah, and what is like this situation all around? It is easy to see the situation is as follows. The White House has been seized by terrorists, and everyone wants to stall for time and talk kindly to the terrorists, so that only terrorists will be in peace, and in meantime mechanisms will be found to neutralize the terrorists. So let's move on to the last point. Who are the ones who could neutralize the terrorists in the White House? First of all, we must ask who brought them there? Who is responsible for that the Trump administration is in office in White House? Yes, who brought Trump and those around him in the White House into the office? These were Republicans who used the Trump card in the struggle for power to win the elections. These were also Democrats who, due to unsuccessful, absurd actions harming to Ukraine and cooperating with the Kremlin regime, ended up with the Republicans winning the elections. But who should neutralize the terrorists now? The Republicans should do it. It must be such a hope. But we are looking really at the situation, what goes on there around Republicans. One can hope that more and more Republicans will appear as defenders of Ukraine and Trump's trying to limit Trump, demanding that Trump abandon cooperation with the Kremlin or something like that. The Republicans are entangled in their actions. Yes, entangled, because they do not want to lose their elections to the Democrats. Yes, this is one point which makes Republicans as a losers in this battle before Trump, before whole USA. Because of this, we see this shameful politics of Republicans. They does not want to lose, but they are already losers. All signs show that the Republicans should lose. It is only a question of time. And this time of Trump should end with defeat of Republicans, but they do not want to openly recognize this. Yeah, and so we may say we do not know how the neutralization of Trump as a terrorist will happen, whether it will happen at all. This is a serious problem for the United States in this situation. Is it beneficial for Moscow? Nothing is known because Moscow has rushed into a desperate attempt to save itself. Will it be saved? In fact, we should be fighting together with Ukraine to overthrow this regime, to destroy it, not thinking together with the US and Trump about how to save the Russians. Yes, this concluding conclusion should be we should fight together with Ukraine to overthrow this regime in Moscow. This should be our aim, not to try to save or Putin or Trump or whatever else. This is inner problem for US, how to come over this their shameful page of their history with this Trump and all these dirty things. Yeah, we should stand with Ukraine. We are to struggle together with Ukraine against aggressors, against Russia. And this is our point. We are standing to this, and because of this, we are doing this speech too. Okay.